Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. If my sound is off today, that's because I couldn't get my microphone to work. So my wonderful editor, Celeste, that I love to pieces, I'm sure will do the best job ever with this sound. But I really was excited to meet with my guest today. I just can't wait to pick her brain and talk to her about her story and why she got into what she does. But I also kind of want to circle back on something, the climate of what's going on in the world right now and in our country, and how I just know for my listeners, we're headed into Mental Health Awareness Month in May. Don't give up. It's a there's some scary things going on right now. And especially being female and having children, little girls, I worry about my children's future. Yesterday was Earth Day. I worry about our planet. And I just know a lot of you come to listen to me because you might be struggling or going through trauma. Or today we're going to be talking about my favorite topic, parenting, which is huge and hard. And you know what? If you're a mom and you're listening right now and you're going through all the other stuff of being stressed out about, life and what's going on in the world, and then on top of that, you're parenting, kids and trying to figure out how to navigate being a mom or a parent, or you're a dad and you're trying to figure this out. It's okay. It's okay to feel this way, because I think we all are kind of feeling this way right now.
We've all been put here for a reason, and we all deserve acceptance.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.
I'm a trauma survivor from a really young age, and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD in the past few years. I've been surrounded by death and abuse much of my life. I've been dragged through the mud and have been to the point of not wanting to go on anymore. Through my interviews with other survivors, I've learned that there is a way out. From recovering to surviving and thriving, we all have the strength to come out the other side.
You are listening to Judging Meghan.
I'm going to introduce my guest. I told Lenore before we recorded that I tend to butcher every single intro that I've done probably for the past 5 months. I mean, I just can't do a good intro. So Lenore, if I mess this up, it's just part of how I roll. And I guess why people—
I'd be honored. I got messed up by Meghan. Yay.
So Lenore Skenazy is president of Let It Grow.
Nope.
Oh, I said it wrong.
But everybody does. Everybody says, let it go, let it grow. It's just let grow.
Let grow. You guys, see, yeah. I can't. I knew it. President Let Grow, about childhood independence. She's also started the whole free range kids movement. And if you are like me or one of my really good friends, Kim, that listens and has asked me specifically to have somebody on to talk about this, this is your podcast, everyone. So Lenore, welcome to the podcast. Are you ready to tap out yet with this probably 15-minute me not being able to log on and the lights and the microphone?
You look great, and the light is so pretty on your hair, and I'm ready.
Okay, well, I'm so honored to meet you. We're going to start with this. I want to know about you. I know that we're both in Manhattan Beach. You told me before we recorded.
I was joking in that I'm outside of Manhattan, in that I'm in Queens, New York.
Oh, okay.
Here I am,
I thought that there was a part of Queens called Manhattan Beach, which I never knew.
Oh, no, there's some beaches. If you go keep going all the way, if you keep going in Queens, you end up on Long Island. But no, I'm in Queens, New York, Jackson Heights, coolest neighborhood. And when you come out here, as I said, we have a lot of little independent, old-fashioned cafes, and we'll go for coffee.
I would love that. Okay, so I want to start with you and all about you. Did you grow up in New York? Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you got into this to begin with.
Wow, I always think my background is so boring, because it is. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. It was really nice. My parents moved there because they had good schools and homes. And then I went to college, and I came to New York after that, and I've been here ever since.
So you have lived in New York and seen all different kinds of stages. I briefly was in New York back in, I would say, right after college, 2000, right before 2000. Mm-hmm. And it's just the city and the energy of New York is like no other. So the only thing for me though, is they say that you're either a California, like an LA person or a New York person. I'm an LA person.
Well, I don't drive. Clearly I am a Manhattan person, New York City person.
Manhattan person. I loved the energy. I just didn't, I would get lost all the time.
Yeah, I lost all the time too. And I've been here forever. Yeah. It's
I love it.
hard. Luckily the numbers go one way in New York City. It's really good. It's a grid system. But I think my assumption is that I'm on your show today, not because I moved to New York and I love it, but because I let my 9-year-old ride the subway here.
Yes.
And I wrote a column about it, and it was in 2008 or 9. It's been so long. And I trusted him to be on the subway without me. And after the column broke, I was on every possible television show, often defending myself, and I got the nickname America's Worst Mom.
Yeah.
But I started the Free Range Kids blog, and then, it sort of grew into a movement because I wanted to explain my side of things, which I guess I get to do here too, which is that I love safety. I love helmets, car seats. We dragged around a car. Like I said, I don't drive. We dragged around a car seat so that we would have a car seat when we took cabs. I mean, I think I'm very safety conscious. But I also think that kids can do way more than we think they can. And our culture has sort of eviscerated all our trust in their smarts and their safety and told us that your kids are never going to be able to do anything without you. And so we're with our kids all the time to watch them and help them and high five them and encourage them and solve the problems. And what's ironic about that is that because we're always with them, we see all the dumb things they do and we help them all the time. And so we never get to realize, and they don't get to realize either, how much they could actually do on their own if we weren't always intervening to make it a teachable moment, or to help them, or even to just intervene. Use your indoor voice and, share your toys and look both ways. And these are important things, but at some point you got to let your kids do stuff without you there and sort of internalizing your wisdom and your love and not just always being with them.
Okay. So I love, first of all, great pivot, because I love that we're not talking about living in New York, although it's a great podcast episode. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to raise my hand as high as I possibly can and tell you that I did not do any of this right. I mean, I definitely am a helicopter mom. I mean, I look back on all the mistakes I made.
Wait, mistakes.
Okay.
This drives me crazy too. And I just want to say, I don't have any idea how you parented, but I always think that there is no right way to do it. So a mistake would be beating your child.
Okay.
Probably didn't do that, right? Probably didn't starve your child, right?
I didn't do that, but I am going to say this because I would love your opinion on this. We live in a time, like you said, where everybody gets a trophy. Every kid gets a trophy. Every kid's parents are, trying to get, especially where I live, like my son's going to be in the NFL, and they're all pushing their kids. And like you said, I think it's so amazing that you do this and you talk about this, because I grew up in Potomac, Maryland. Uh-huh. I would go out. My mom would open the garage in the afternoon, right? I'd go walk out of the garage when I got home from school, and I would not come home until it was dark out. And my mom would just say, come inside, it's time for dinner. And we would just all be in the court playing kick the can, playing games.
You actually played kick the can?
We played kick the can.
I thought that was like, years and years before any of us were alive. Kick the can. So how do you play it?
Kick the can. You're going to ask me this. I don't even remember now, but you
involved kicking and maybe a can.
I lived on a court, and we would all kick the can. We would play this game called Kick the Can. I don't remember the rules now. And we would play Ghost in the Graveyard. We would play all of these games. Mm-hmm. And I look back on those times. I would walk to the creek with my friend Rachel. Great. I look back on my childhood and how happy those times were, right? Mm-hmm. And now I think about the fact that I'm terrified. And I'm not saying I'm a bad parent, like you said. I think I'm a great parent in a lot of ways. But I I'm terrified every time my child leaves the house.
Right. So I want to talk about that for a second, if I may, which is that it's not you. Mm-hmm. We all remember your childhood because we all had that childhood, and we have all become frozen with fear. And so it can't just be you. And like, it's not you being this individual harpy helicopter hovering mess. It's nobody is letting their kids do anything anymore. And that means that our culture has convinced us that it's too dangerous or too much to ask of our kids, or that it's bad parenting, or that we're lazy if we're not with them all the time. And then even if you want to be the anti-helicopter parent, there's almost no way, because there are schools that won't let the kids get off the school bus in the afternoon unless there's a parent who I guess has quit their job to come and stand there from 3 to 3:30 because the bus is not always on time to walk the kid home 2 blocks or sometimes 2 houses back. And then there's schools that won't let a child self-dismiss, even if a mom writes a letter, this is fine, she can come home, I want her to walk home. And then there's soccer practice that wants the parents to stay. And then there's schools that send home minute by minute reports. My friend, it's hard for me to get this working fast enough, but normally I would love to show you. A friend showed me that her kid's preschool sends home notices every day, 9:27 a.m., P, 10:24 a.m., P, 12:02 p.m., P and B.M., right? And how many orange slices she ate, and how many chicken nuggets she ate, and a chastising note to the mom. I noticed you sent in a part of a granola bar, and that's not only a choking hazard, there's sugar. So there's just, it's an impossible culture that is telling us that every bite of, a granola bar is going to give our kids diabetes. And if we don't get the information on how many times they peed that day, maybe we're going to be missing something important. These are milestones. You must be paying attention every single second to every single thing your kid does, sees, eat, reads, licks. And it's driving us crazy. So you are not the only person who is terrified to let your kid do anything, because we've all been told that if our kids are not with us or with a trusted adult, and my God, you got to background check them up the wazoo. If you're not watching them every single second of the day, they're either going to be, kidnapped, raped, and eaten, or not get into Princeton, and either way, or the NFL, it's because you weren't paying enough attention. So we have a culture that is demanding constant intervention and attention on the part of adults that drives us crazy as parents and drives our kids crazy. So that's all I'm trying to push back on, is this culture that we're in, not individual parents who are stuck in it. I feel for them. I was one of them. I walk my kids to school every day. Why? Because we all did.
Can I ask you, when the actual blog and the article came out, and you got all the pushback, that must have been really, really hard to deal with.
It was so many things. And first of all, it's a million years ago. The 9-year-old who rode the subway is 27. So it's been a minute. There was pushback, and there was some. I worried less about the pushback than about jinxing things. I mean, we're all superstitious at base. And I felt like if I say my kid's fine, God is going to teach me a lesson. You think he's fine? Zap. So that still sort of worries me. So we have to skip over that part. And then there was also a lot of people on this side, which sort of sick of being so afraid and being told that anytime your kid is eating something less than a superfood, you're leaving potential on the table. Anytime they could be in travel soccer and instead you have them in, local recreation soccer, that's, well, there goes their scholarship, or there goes their self-esteem, or there goes their life, right? Everything in terms of parenting is written in such dramatic scale. That's why the schools won't let the kid walk home. I mean, 99.9999999% of the time that kid is going to be fine. But if they're not, oh my God, the school's going to feel responsible. The parents going to feel responsible. So nobody lets it happen. It's an interesting new tick in our collective parenting lives that we always go to this very worst case scenario first. I think if your mom was letting you outside playing kick the can on a court, I don't even know what a court is. Do you mean a cul-de-sac?
Like a cul-de-sac. We called it a court because my street was Weatherwood Court. So it was a court. Yeah. I guess that's a Maryland thing. I don't know. But
for us, it was definitely the cul-de-sac. Yeah.
Cul-de-sac. Same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, the fact that the kids aren't out on the cul-de-sacs now is because what if something terrible happened? What if the man in the white van? What if a car hits them? And it's so interesting to me because we go immediately to that terrible worst case scenario. And I had a worried mom, a mom who quit her job to stay home and raise her two daughters, sort of like yours, 4 years apart. And she managed to be fine when we weren't there. When we went to school, there was no phones, there was no call, no ping on your, find my kid or Life 360, your child has reached the school. And so what happened organically back then is that we got used to doing things on our own and dealing with the scary dog or getting lost or whatever. And our parents got used to trusting, right? They had to trust us. They had to trust the school. They had to trust our neighbors. They had to trust their own parenting. And trust is a muscle. Mm-hmm. And it's just going flaccid in this culture today because instead of trusting, you're getting a note from the school. Your kid just had a BM. Your kid just had an orange slice. Your kid just got a C+ on the test. Please come in for tutoring for the rest of your life. And so we don't know what it feels like to relax and trust. And it actually is driving us crazy. I'll just shut up in 1 second, but the thing that drives me crazy is that all of these check-ins with your kid, electronically or in person or from the school are sold to us as ways to create peace of mind. You'll know exactly how your child is doing. There will be no surprises. You'll know exactly how far your kid is from school. You'll know exactly if they stopped and got a candy bar or not. But that's not peace of mind. Peace of mind is trusting it's going to be okay. She's going to be all right. She can do badly in Spanish, and that's not the end of the world. She can eat a candy bar before dinner, and I don't have to know about it. She can be playing kick the can, and she's not going to lose all of her opportunities to get into a good school. Peace of mind comes from trust and not from verification. And we are being sold verification and surveillance as the path to peace of mind. It's the wrong direction.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. Part of why I wanted you to come on to talk about this is because I want to let go of how I am. I'm being honest because I think there's so many, and I'm holding myself accountable. I know I'm this way.
And so is everyone else. Go on.
I think I'm worse because of my childhood trauma and the stuff I've gone through. And like you, I had a mother that was had been, attacked as a child. And so she kind of brought that on me. And then I've put that on my own kids. So every time, my 15-year-old, and I love that you brought up like find me or the 360 app. These are all things that I'm like, how do I get myself out of being obsessed with I actually went through this yesterday, to be honest, with my 15-year-old. She turned off her location. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I went, also, let's be real. We've had some issues with her being honest with us, but I guess that's part of the free range movement and it's
just part of life. It's not part of any movement. Yeah.
Right. And being a teenager, I just went to the worst place. And like you said, which I love what you said, is true. This is driving me crazy. This is driving me crazy that this isn't normal, that I'm like, oh my God, I'm up at night. Where is she? Is she in her bed right now? I am spiraling. And I think there's a lot of us, a lot of moms and a lot of parents out there, I would say more female, like moms that are like, just like me, and have been taught this behavior, or maybe they had a mom like this and I love my mom. Sorry, mom, but it's come onto me. And then I just go to the worst place in my mind. Like yesterday, I didn't know where she was. No. I was like, and it's such a bad thing. Like for me,
it's sad. I mean, it's really, it's sad that you have to go through that. And first of all, I'm sorry for whatever your mom went through, but whether your mom was attacked or not, so many people who are parents today are feeling the same way you are, even if they were raised by parents who had a perfectly fine and happy upbringing. Because, as I've said, it's a culture that is training us. I'll give you one example, and then I'm going to tell you how to counter it.
Thank you.
So when I was on these TV shows after I let my kid ride the subway and I wrote the column, the conversation generally was like, oh, did he have fun? Sometimes he was with me. Did you have fun? Yes, it was fun. What, were you scared? No, it was exciting. How did you feel, Mom? I thought it was cool. And then at some point they would ask this question: which was, okay, how would you have felt if he hadn't come home? And it was always, I was always dumbfounded, like, don't they know? So why were they asking? And I think they were asking because we actually have a culture that's tutoring us in how to be neurotic, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, you let him go? Yeah. You thought he'd be fine? Yeah. Was he fine? Yeah. But what if he wasn't? It's like, well, why are we talking about that? Why, we're talking about that because that's the way almost every parental decision is framed in our culture. It's like, what if something goes wrong? And so the fact that something didn't go wrong doesn't matter because it could have. And how would you have felt? I mean, it goes into this weird alternative universe where I'm living with eternal regret for having trusted my kid and having trusted my city, having trusted an hour without me with him. And in fact, I should have learned this lesson immediately because I was on the Today Show. And then they pull a wide shot out and there's this other lady on the couch with me and my son. And who's she? I don't know. She's a psychologist. And she's there to tell me there's different ways I could have done this to have been a better mother and kept him safe. I'm like, well, I was a good mom and he was safe, but you could have sent him in a group. I'm like, well, the whole point was that he wanted to find his own way home. And like, you could have followed him. It's like, well, if I thought it was that dangerous, I wouldn't have let him do it. If he needed a bodyguard, I wouldn't have thought, well, this is fine anyway. So you have a culture that is training you in very subtle ways all the time. Every year in September, a kid gets off at the wrong bus stop somewhere in America. And then a reporter is dispatched and it's like, what happened, Mom? He got off the wrong stop. It's like, well, how are you feeling? Like, well, anything could have happened. And then we're just incredibly grateful that it didn't. And it's like, it's as if it's an anomaly. It's as if it's unusual that the kid was not killed having gotten off the wrong bus stop. But kids get off the wrong bus stop and then they have to ring a doorbell or try to remember a local landmark or cry. And somebody comes up and says, what's the matter? I mean, instead, we're being told that anytime a kid is fine, it's unusual. It's just, it's a miracle that the kid got off 2 stops before he was supposed to and somehow ended up alive at the end of the day. And so when you have a culture that's driving you crazy like that, you get very anxious. And you know that the cure for anxiety, at least according to the psychologists, is what they call exposure therapy. You're afraid of dogs. So what do? The psychologist shows you, here's pictures of a dog. And it's like, okay, I can deal with that. Okay, well, tomorrow we're going to go and there's going to be a real dog across the street. And so you go and there's a dog across the street. Oh, it's not so bad. And like, well, I hate to tell you, but tomorrow you're going to be in a room with a dog. Be on leash, but you'll be in a room with the dog. And then day 4 or week 4, whatever it is, the dog is off the leash and he comes up and he's licking your hand and he's wagging his tail. And instead of being terrified, you've become exposed and accustomed to something that used to terrify you becomes normal. So if we were allowed to get more used to our kids not always being with us, not always being trackable and reachable, like my mom and your mom, when they sent us outside, we would breathe easier. And so Let Grow, the nonprofit that I run now that grew out of free range kids, has a really simple and free thing that we recommend schools do. And it's being studied as actually transformative, but I'll tell you what it is. First of all, it's called the Let Grow experience. And it's teachers give kids the homework assignment, that's what you get from us, that basically says, go home and do something new on your own with your parents' permission, but without your parents. And it's homework for the kid, but it's also homework for the parent. Because you talk about it with the kid and it's like, well, Mom, I want to ride my bike to school. Oh, no, it's too crazy in the morning. Well, could I ride my bike to, Meghan's house? Well, okay. If you do it on a Saturday morning when there's less traffic. And they negotiate together, but they know that the kid has to do something new. And sometimes it's just something in the house, taking the cookies out of the oven, using an oven mitt without Mom doing it. Or, doing anything in the house, doing the laundry. Just cooking is a big thing. Anyways, it's really great when they do something beyond the house. But whatever it is, your parent can't be with you. You talk about it first, but then they can't be with you. And then what I've seen over and over, and the only reason I keep doing this at all, this is 17 years in, is because the parent is immediately rewired. When the kid comes home and they're flushed with excitement and they had so much fun on their bike, and I didn't want to tell you, but I climbed a tree on the way back, or they got the bread for dinner, or they got lost, but then they found their way back. The parent's heart is like the Grinch. It grows 3 sizes that night. And then it is so much easier to let go the next time and the next time. And the kids are all talking to each other at school. What did you do? Well, I tried to build a raft. How'd it go? Oh, it sank. Oh, what'd you do? I went and got my hair cut. Oh my God, that's a horrible haircut. Yeah, well, I forgot to tell them, give me bangs. And then the parents are talking too. And then they're posting things on Facebook. Look what my kid did. And my kid made us dinner. I can't believe it. And when I talk to the parents, the one thing they say the most is, I can't believe it took us this long.
Mm-hmm.
My kid was so ready. My kid is so proud. I talked to another woman today. God, what did she do? Her 5-year-old did something. Went into the store or something. I was talking
I saw this post about it, about a lady that let her son, it was about this exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was your movement. And she let her son go into he was probably like 6 or 7. And she parked her car.
Oh, I know this one, yes.
You've seen this. Okay.
Yes, the Chick-fil-A lady.
In front of the Chick-fil-A and let her son, and she was sitting in the car so terrified. Yeah. Let him go in and order by himself. And then it made me tear up actually watching it, part of why I was excited to have you on. And then he comes back in the car and he was so proud of himself that he did it.
He was so proud. But literally when I was saying I talked to somebody today, I talked to another person today. I mean, people are so proud when these things happen. And what I loved about the Chick-fil-A mom is that she did it even though you could see she was terribly nervous.
Yeah.
She was going crazy and the kid was gone for just a few minutes. I mean, how long does it take to order Chick-fil-A, right? And what I loved about him is that he came out, he's this cute little kid, he gets in the back seat, he got his mom an extra large soda and she was very grateful. And then she said, and the first thing he said is, I can't wait to do it again.
I saw that. Yeah. It was great.
That was great. Oh my God. Yeah. And then I love the other thing he said, which is she said, how did it feel? And he said, so he's already established he wants to do it again, unprompted. But he said, I was so scared, my legs are still shivering.
I saw that. It was so sweet.
It was really great. Yeah.
It was really great. So I'm going to tell you my own little thing that I did, which I was really proud of myself. So my youngest is 11. Okay. And in the beginning of the year, I always said, we're not going to let her walk down from school to our downtown Manhattan beach. I just was so nervous to let her do this. She was still 10 at the time and walk down by herself with a group of friends, like a couple of friends with her. And I don't personally believe in phones because I've seen the damage of what it did to my older daughter. And I'm not going to get her one until she's a teenager. Right. That's a separate thing. But I said one day, okay, I'm going to let you walk downtown, which I'm going to tell you, Lenore, for somebody like me was the most, and I know 10, I should probably be okay with this, but
no, I'm so proud of you. How did it go?
Terrified to the point where I even called one of my friends and said, I think I'm going to follow her in the car and drive and make sure she's down. And I didn't do it.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
And I didn't do it. And so I feel like you should be proud of me because I'm on my way.
I am very proud of you.
But also, to your exact point, she loves, it makes me tear up. She loves her Friday, her Friday after school, because they always have a half day. And she walks down and I'm tearing up. And she's so proud of herself because she looks forward to this time of independence with her couple friends that she goes down with. And then I go and we always have a set time and I pick her up at that time. And I think to myself, I did this, I let her do this and she loves it. It's her happiest part of the week. So I feel like for somebody like me, that is this, I know I'm a helicopter parent. That's a huge deal. And as I talk to you and I think about all these things and I think about your movement and how important it is that it's taking baby steps to get there, right?
That's not a baby step. That's a really huge step. And I'm proud of you. And I'm happy for both of you. I mean, especially when we were talking about at the beginning, your happy memories as a kid were not with your mom. I mean, not that you didn't like your mom. We all loved our moms, but your happy memories, we go back to the time that we spent with our friends without our parents, without an adult there. having our world. And of course she loves it. I mean, it's a taste of who she really is. And knowing that your parents trust you and believe in you is also really huge for kids. I mean, if we're with them, they know that we love them. But if we can let go, they know that we also trust them. And trust them, not even trust them to never do anything wrong, but trust that they're smart enough and okay enough that you can let go a little. So, hooray.
But I also, to piggyback on that, I did not let my older daughter do this. So I was the parent that just wouldn't do it. So I kind of feel like looking back, like as a mom, we're both moms, you think about as a parent, like I should have done this or I should have done that.
I think that too. And I am the free range mom. We all second guess our decisions and would it have been better? And what if I hadn't? And how come I did? And, you just got to keep going forward. So
for somebody like that is a new parent, for example, and they, what are the ages that you kind of take little chances? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can, but it's going to be very ambiguous and amorphous because I don't have specific ages because every kid is different.
Every kid's different.
Neighborhood is different. Their interests are different. And I would say, basically, if you can remember doing X at X age, chances are your kids could do it too. We have a culture that really has aged up what we think any kid could do. I mean, did I tell you this already? That there was this University of Michigan study, 1,000 parents across America, and they asked parents of kids age 9 to 11. So your kid, your younger daughter's age. And the majority of them would not let them play at the park with a friend, would not let them walk to a friend's house, wouldn't let them trick or treat without an adult. Only 50% would let them go to another aisle at a store, even when you're shopping together as a family. So the age that we trust kids to do anything on their own is really out of whack with not only with child development, but with our own memories. We certainly remember going to the park before before puberty, with a friend. And so that's why I keep railing at the culture and not at parents, because at some point we just stopped seeing kids as, competent young people who might get into some messes, but are not always, in dire straits. And we just started seeing them as, incompetent and valuable objects that if we're not watching them will be stolen. We think of them as like, somebody once said to me, because a mom had let her kid wait in the children's room for 3 minutes while she checked out a book at another part of the library. And everybody hated on her. The kid was 5 online. And the oft repeated complaint was that, well, would you leave $1 million on the table? And it's like, well, I didn't leave $1 million on the table. I left my 5-year-old reading a book and it's a library and there's a librarian there and I'm not far away and you're allowed to trust reality. I mean, for anything bad to happen to that kid, it would have had to been like somebody with a telescope watching that kid from across the street and, propelling themselves into the children's room of the library and taking the kid out without anybody stopping them. There's no way anything bad could have happened. And you're allowed to say, you guys hate on me because you're imagining the worst case scenario. I don't have to live by your bad imaginations. I don't have to make my decisions based on you fantasizing movies out of, a Liam Neeson movie taking place in my suburban library while my kid reads a book for 3 minutes. I'm allowed to choose reality. And by doing the let grow experience, you get this reality hit. You let your kid walk. You didn't follow her. Everything was fine. She's happy. She's grateful. And she has that part of her life now.
I think too, like just going backwards a little bit, it's got to be so much based on like the media. So like thinking in my own head to when I was a kid, my mom kind of shifted the way that she was, where she was so free with us being able to do whatever we wanted because of that boy, Adam, getting kidnapped. I don't know if you were. Yeah. So Adam Walsh, when I was a little girl, was kidnapped. And then every parent was like, completely changed. Like I couldn't go in the Toys R Us anymore and be able to walk down the aisle by myself. And now I equate it to kind of like with the planes, right? With the airlines right now. So the media is so focused on any time there's an incident in air travel, like a small plane, or the other day there was a fire on a plane, because of what has happened as of like the recent, sadly, the gymnasts, or the ice skaters getting killed in that horrific plane crash.
Yeah.
So then it's like the next day, it's like every time something goes wrong on a plane right now, people are like, oh my God, what's going on with air travel?
Right. I was talking to somebody who said,
related to the same kind of thing. And that's why our society's like this.
Yeah. A couple of things. First of all, we live in a media saturated society. So there's always going to be information coming at us. And of course, all the media companies are striving for one thing, which is more viewers, right? Or more listeners, because you can charge more for advertising the more people who are tuning in. And what do two people tune into? Not to great news, not to, another plane landing safely. Oh, there's another plane landing safely. Oh, guess what? Now we're in St. Louis. Another plane is landing safely. Yeah. It's only the worst case scenarios that make it onto the news. And I'm just going to explain one little thing that somebody explained to me once. Actually, I didn't write a book. I read a book called The Science of Fear. And what they explained is that your brain sort of works like Google. And if you ask your brain, where's there a good cafe in Manhattan Beach? It will give you, here's one that has 5 stars and here's one with 4.9 stars. And it will give you relevant information that's useful for you, right? The search results are useful. But if you ask your brain, is my kid safe in another aisle at the store? Up comes Adam Walsh. And Adam Walsh was taken, I think, 40 something years ago. Okay. So another 2 generations have been born since then, millions upon millions of kids, but up comes him. And then maybe the story of Eitan Pates, who was taken from a bus stop in New York in 1979. And maybe J.C. Dugard. I mean, the fact that I know these names, other people probably are familiar with some of these names, because they are the saddest stories of the last 50 years. And because they pop up so easily in your brain, because there's a picture and a story and fear, your brain thinks that they are the most relevant, right? They're so easy to picture. Your brain goes, well, the easier it is to retrieve a story, the more relevant it must be. But in fact, the easier it is to retrieve, in this case, the less relevant, because we can't retrieve billions of stories of kids walking home from the school bus, or going to the store with their mom and just being bored, or accidentally, breaking a bottle of oil. All you picture are the worst case scenarios, and you think that's what's going to happen to your kids. So yes, one of the reasons that we're so much more afraid than our parents were is that we have so much more media. I mean, there was no cable television until the 80s, right? And then the internet came along in the 90s. So now it's in our pockets. Of course, we're more afraid. There's so many scary stories coming at us relentlessly.
Also, I think to piggyback on what you just said, and why am I saying piggyback? So
I don't know. It's coming up a lot, but then we can talk about piggyback, guys, because I do have something else. I actually have something to say about that.
My favorite new thing to use is the judgment piece of it, right? So I know you talk about this, but just like the judgment piece of, I'll give you an example. I have a friend that was telling me she was going to let her kids walk home from school. Okay. And that part of me went, what? Because it's a little bit far and they have to cross over kind of a major road. And I went, are you really going to do that? Because I can drive them. And then she said, no, I'm letting them walk home from school. They're 10, 11. And I said, oh my God. And in my head, I went to the Karen in quotes, piece of being like, well, why would you do that? So I think there's also the piece of it that there's so on you, there's so much judgment on other parents and what we say and do that we don't focus enough on ourselves and what's happening in our own home, that we're focusing so much on other people that this, like you said, it's all this big giant ball of fear. Not good. No bueno.
No bueno. So to tout our free program again, the reason the Let Grow experience is so great, if a whole class does it or a whole school does it, then everybody is letting their kids do something, and they have to. It's homework, right? So she's letting her kids walk home, and you're letting your kid go downtown, and I'm letting my kid go get an ice cream or take the subway, depending on where you are and what their interest is and what you feel makes sense. Right? But then everybody gets that same experience of like, wow, like you did with letting your kid go downtown, right? This is great. My kid is happy. I'm happy that I'm letting her do this. This is a great new part of her life. So a collective, I work with John Haidt, and he always says a collective problem, which is nobody letting their kids do anything on their own, needs a collective solution, which is everybody doing it so it's normal again. Just like your mom let you go and my mom let me go, because back then, even at much younger ages than we're talking about now, kids were out on their bikes and playing and kicking cans.
Yeah, even though you didn't know what kick the can was, Lenore.
I did not kick a single can. You know what? But I'm so old that in the olden days, cans, when they had the flip top, it pulled off. Do you remember that at all? Was that the when you open a can, it was this little thing and it pulled off. Anyways, you could collect those. And this is the nerd I was. I collected them and I made them into belts, which were just painful, ugly, pointless, but something to do. I mean, the other thing is that crafting. Like crafting. Right. I have a couple of friends that are like total crafters. Nobody crafts anymore. I love that. Well, it all has to do with free time. And one of the things, I'll ask you this, and maybe it'll spark something for you or any of your listeners, which is I sometimes like to ask people if they can see a link between something that they loved doing as a kid, just for fun, not for school, not for coach, just for fun, and who they are now, or even their profession. Okay.
I just had this conversation with one of my friends, actually. I played with Barbies until I was in 8th grade. No, not 8th grade, maybe like 7th grade. My friend Molly Brown and I, and it was our passion. And I've always been into clothes and putting outfits together. And since I was a kid with my Barbie dream house and all my Barbies, and I would go into Molly Brown's basement and she had more Barbies than anyone else. And we would go down the stairs and we would just like lock ourselves in her basement and play with our Barbies for hours. And they would go, remember, like go on the vacation, they go in their cars, they go in the hot tub. And I think that because I was an actress, and I was a theater major in college, all of that play based, like making the personalities with the different Barbies and all of that stuff really made me the creative person that I am now. Right. So to answer your question, sadly, neither of my daughters took to Barbies like I did, but my youngest is extremely creative and like, she, does characters and she plays around and likes to do all the acting exercises and is very, very creative. But to answer your question, that's so, so important, right?
Yeah,
what about
it is.
What is your?
I have my one example is that as a kid, I really wanted to start a phrase. I wanted people to use a word. And so I made jewelry like pins with weird words on them. I made necklaces hanging down, trying to get people to coin a phrase, really. For some reason, that was an obsession. And I trademarked free range kids. So I feel like, there's just stuff that turns you on as a kid is often this deep part of you. And, I talked to one guy, I'll tell you really briefly, who I asked, like, what did you do as a kid that you still see yourself doing? And he was kind of recalcitrant, but eventually he said that as a kid growing up in Miami, there's all the fruit trees and the fruit would fall in the person's yard, but then the branches that were over the sidewalk, the fruit would fall onto the sidewalk and you could just pick it up because it was public, right? So you'd pick up the other people's food, other people's like oranges or whatever, and put them in his little cart. And then he went around selling this fruit. And his name is Jeff Bezos.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought, well, you mean you took other people's stuff and you sold it?
No way. That's crazy.
Way.
You know what, though, when you tell that story or you tell your story, sorry for talking over you, your whole face lights up.
Because we're remembering something that's so important. There's a Wordsworth poem, which is the child is father to the man. which is we're kids first, right? That's this old part of us. And if there's something that you love doing, I mean, it did stuff that I don't do anymore at all. I used to draw. I can't draw a stick figure, but I spent hours doing it. And the point is that the hours spent drawing, which I don't do, making jewelry out of pop tops that are ugly, that I don't, it's like you could say like, well, Lenore, you wait. And I spent a lot of time looking for 4-leaf clovers. Yeah. These things are pointless, time wasting, mind wandering nothings. And somehow we all ended up being functioning adults. So you don't have to fill every moment with something that is quote unquote enriching because it's something that a teacher is teaching you or an after school program is giving you. Some of that's great. I did take art lessons and I had, learned how to hook rugs. That's a really skill nobody needs, but, and they're also really ugly.
I'm so jealous. I always wanted to do, it's never too late.
You can still hook rugs.
Yeah.
Right? I probably still have the rug hooking junk in my closet here somewhere and you can take it away because they were really ugly. But of course, my mom was so nice. She put my hooked rug on the wall for everyone to see. So the point is that you can, quote unquote, waste time, and wasted time isn't wasted as a kid. If you're doing something that really interests you, you're learning all the skills you were talking about. You were learning creativity. I'm looking for 4-leaf clovers. I'm learning focus. We're learning how to make something happen. We're learning how to get buy-in. I don't want to play Barbies. Let's play that they're going to the moon instead of going to the movies. I mean, all of these interpersonal skills and interests are like, they need to breathe. Mm-hmm. So kids need some time. And even if we say like, well, I'll play Barbies with you. It's not, you can play some with your kids, but some of the time the kids need to either be playing by themselves or with other kids, because otherwise we don't mean to, but we direct them. We're teaching them, and they have to learn a lot from the world and from following their nose. So I have to put in a plug for our other Let Grow idea or program for schools. And you can also always do these at home, is to keep the schools open. Remember, everything we do is free. Keep the schools open for all ages together, mixed together, no phones, free play. Because you were talking about how much your kid loves going downtown and you don't give her a phone. Well, mm-hmm. What if every kid had a couple hours after school to play whatever they want? You can bring your Barbies. You can bring your remote control cars. You can bring an old typewriter. You can bring a tire. There's stuff at the school, balls, chalk, and just give them a time and a place when they can be together, when nobody is organizing a game, nobody is deciding who gets a trophy, nobody is even solving the arguments. There's an adult there, just like a lifeguard at a beach. The lifeguard does not organize the volleyball games, right? Those are self-organizing. Let the kids figure out what they want to do. And then it's really great for the kids, because even if you're a third grader and you don't have a lot of friends in your class, but you give the kindergartners a piggyback ride, then you come to school and the kindergartners are like, there's Meghan, right? Or Meghan meets a fifth grader who is also interested in thinking about what life is about. And suddenly you have just this soulmate, this friend at school. School becomes such a different place. It's a place where you are coming to be you as opposed to be taught.
It's all about, I had Dr. Mark Williams come. I don't know if you're familiar with him, and he wrote a book about the human connection. Oh. So this is all about what he talks about and how we're so disconnected. I had a conversation, and this is why I think it's so important that you're on, because I think that this is learned behavior. By me having this conversation with you today, my big mouth will go out, and I have my grateful to all my listeners that might be learning and are learning something from you today. But also just being like, hey, maybe take a step back and really think about this. Or for me, thinking about my behavior yesterday with my daughter, being panicked, where is she? Why did you do this? And then I yelled at her when she came home because I was so stressed about where she was, when in reality, all she was doing was driving, taking her bike downtown. But I go to the worst places. And what I was going to say is that adds on to my conversation I had maybe a month ago with another friend who has older kids that are in college, out of college. And she said, even though I live in LA, we live in a small part, a pocket. The beach cities are pretty small. So it's a 2-mile radius. So everyone's kind of into everyone else's business and everybody knows everybody else. It's that kind of place. And I said, oh, well, what's going on with so-and-so? And she was talking about how so many of these kids, these college kids, are either suicidal or they're, having like mental health issues and not graduating. And so to me, like part of why I think your movement is so important, and I'm so honored to talk to you today, is because I think my generation and like other generations, we were so fortunate that we didn't have the phones. Mm-hmm. We didn't have like, thank you, Al Gore, for creating the World Wide Web and computers. But like, as you know, it's spiraled out of control. And so I think it's important that we keep up your movement and we learn these little things every day that we can maybe do to just maybe get out of my own, and I'm talking about myself, my own helicoptering as a mother and not being so paranoid, right?
But it's not your own. It's this culture's. Everybody is feeling this. Everybody's being told they need Life 360. Everybody's told that their kid has to be in some activity every afternoon, or they're wasting their potential, or they're going to go awry. And so the thing about we're going to talk about the Let Grow Play Club again, is that it is a way for kids to have a place that's just for kids, where it is in real life. They're not on phones. They actually have to look at each other and say, do you want to play? Or can I play? Or this is boring. Let's add an extra ball. Or, it's my turn. No, it's my turn. And then they're arguing, and then they're figuring out how to make things happen. Kids were born with that drive to have fun, like you with your friends with the Barbies and kick the can. You want to have fun. And on the way to having fun, you have to make a friend, or at least somebody who's willing to play with you, right? And so all of those skills that we're worried are atrophying and maybe adding to the kids, despair and loneliness because they're on phones or they have a place to go besides reality, is give them back reality. Give them back a time and a place when they can be together in real life, no phones, having fun, without an adult directing every move.
I know in the school level, if they want to reach out to your organization, can you kind of tell my listeners where they can find you or how they can find your organization?
Oh, with pleasure. So we have, these free programs for schools, and we also have like home versions for adults. It's a silly phrase, but everything is at Let Grow, LETGROW, letgrow.org. And if you click on parents, there's stuff for parents. And if you click on schools, there's the free school programs. Everything's free. And if you're a therapist or a counselor, we had this, a psychology professor did a pilot study using independence as therapy for kids with a diagnosis of anxiety. And the pilot study went really well. And so he wrote up the manual, and now he just got a big grant to do a more robust study. I don't know if it'll be a randomized control trial or not, but it doesn't surprise me that giving kids back some independence would make them feel less anxious, because anxiety is when you think, you can't handle it. If you try, you'll fail. If you fail, it'll be, you'll be humiliated or injured or something horrible forever. And once again, the antidote to that is just going and realizing, oh, it wasn't that hard, or it was hard, but I did it, or I screwed up and it's not the end of the world. So really, action is the only thing that changes anxiety. Being in your head will just keep you going in cycles and circles. And I call it worst first thinking, exactly what we were talking about before, going to the worst case scenario first, proceeding as if it's likely to happen, or thinking that it's likely to happen. So the only antidote is reality, and Let Grow is just trying to give kids back real play and real independence, and give parents a real experience of saying, like, that's my kid.
Yeah, I love it. How did your children turn out? Are they okay?
They are okay. I always think it's an N of two. It's just two sons, and right now they're good. They've been through their ups and downs. Yeah. I'm not going to. That's why I also don't want to ever blame a parent. I mean, the idea that the parents have created a lonely child or a very depressed child. Like I said, I think we're living in a weird culture that's doing a head trip on the parents and the kids. And there's so many influences on a kid. There's the mean neighbor growing up, or the wonderful teacher, or the cousins that they love, or moving away, or a divorce, or something. I mean, there's just so many influences. I don't even want to put divorce in there. Take divorce out there. I'm pointing out that there's there's people, there's circumstances, there's neighborhoods, there's classes, there's whether or not you go to church or whether or not you like your church. I mean, there's just, did you eat just Pop-Tarts your whole life? I mean, there's so many influences on a kid, and we keep thinking it's all us. And that's one of the things that's driving us crazy too. And Peter Gray, who's one of the co-founders with me of Let Grow, always said there's so many parenting books because they're written by parents, but the siblings have a huge influence. And whether your dog is alive or dead has a big influence. Mm-hmm. And, the book that you read that so speaks to you that you want to be like them, that has a huge influence. There's so many influences. Don't drive yourself crazy that it's all on you. And don't just thank yourself like, oh, look what a great job I did if your kid turns out okay. There's so many influences and circumstances that you cannot control. I guess the big thing I would have to say here is that you got to give up this illusion of control, that if you're a great parent, you create a great kid. And if your kid is rotten, it's because you're a rotten parent. It's not, that has never been true.
And there's no such thing as perfect. There's just no such thing as being the times that I always think that this is like our perfect family vacation, right? We're going to Mexico and we're going to look great in pictures. It's kind of like getting a family portrait done, in my opinion, just parenting. I don't know if you remember this when I was always in every picture, I'm like, oh, we all look so great together as a family. But I think back to that day when I took the picture and I was sweating and my butt crack was showing because I was chasing around a toddler and my pants were falling down. I mean, that's how parenthood is, it's like
how life is. Yeah.
It's how life is. It's imperfect. And, we just do the best we can. But Lenore, I'm so honored to meet you. I love what you do.
Ditto. Meghan, this was great and wide ranging.
I'm sorry I butchered. I knew I was going to butcher the name.
It's good. That gave me a chance to say it again and again.
Okay. Well, everyone, please follow. Where can they follow you, by the way? I forgot to say that.
Oh, so let's see. We're on Twitter and Instagram, Let Grow. On Twitter, I'm also Free Range Kids. Facebook, we have a really cool group that anyone can join. It's called Raising Independent Kids. Why do we have 17 different names for everything we do? We do. But it's a really nice community because it's like, I'm thinking of letting my 7-year-old walk to the park. What do you think? Or can I leave my 9-year-old home alone? It's just, and it's not people going, you horrible mom, I'm going to report you to CPS. It's like, well, I tried this and this is a good idea.
Okay. Well, I'm so, like I said, every time I do a podcast, not every time, but the majority of the time when I meet people like you or I meet my amazing guests, I always am either having a bad morning, I couldn't get my microphone to work. I always learn something. And I'm so grateful to you. And I'm so grateful that you are doing this because this is what the world needs right now. We need more Lenores. So thank you again. It was an honor. Everyone, keep going. You matter. Your story matters. Thanks, Lenore.
Thank you, Meghan. Thanks for having me.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.